Hello, and welcome to Sim.bc, where it right now is 10 past 2 in the morning. Yeah, that's 10 past 2 a.m. Yeah, just to provide some context for you, yeah? You know, I'm all about that context, Oh, context. I'm all about that context, yeah. Just so you know that where I'm coming from when I'm giving my thoughts on different topics and so on and so forth. So, by the way, for regular listeners to this podcast, that we do monthly, which I can tell by the numbers are scarce, to say the least, right? But we're doing it anyway. There have been coming out 2 podcast this June, right? And this is obviously gonna be the second one. So I mean, with this, there has been 2. And the reason for that is that there were none in May because I kind of graduated. Now, if you want to know more about that, check out the last podcast I did now in June, the one before this one. I know the chronology. Wow, can't even speak today. Probably because it's so early in the bloody morning. It's all over the place. Now, what we're going to talk about today, trying to focus on it, is music. And this is going to be kind of a topic highlight, which I call this series to begin with, because I'm trying to highlight a particular topic. But then I just drifted off and said podcast. But yes, what we're going to talk about in today's topic highlight is going to be that music. Now, to begin with, I've written down some questions for myself to answer because, kind of keeps some structure in this entire format because, as per usual, it's kind of raw material that we're working with because I don't want to write a script that's like 65 pages long, coming halfway, reading one word wrong, and then be like, wow, we need to restart everything. So I am working with timeline questions I'm talking about today, which I've named them for, which is probably going to be like questions. I'm saying probably, I've bloody written them. Which is going to be questions that make chronological sense, right? So we're going to move from the beginning of my life to later stages of my life, and we're just going to talk about music, my interpretation of music, what I'm doing with music, why I like music, why I don't like music, for instance. Maybe I ain't want to giving anything away before the topic highlight actually begins. So, without any further ado, mates, let's get into it. Ooh, I have a tea here that's still quite hot. So the first question is as follows. If I can only unlock my phone. I know it's nothing but professionality from this channel. Am I right? Timeline questions. First instrument. Now, what was my first instrument? Well, my first instrument is actually something that I do not know what it's called in English. And I'm sorry, I'm a bit embarrassed about it, right? It's called clarinet in Swedish. Let's just see if we can go to translate here a bit quick. It's like a blowing instrument, I guess. To say it the least, let's say a Swedish to English. Clarinet. Yeah, it's called the clarinet. Okay, I look like a bloody idiot, to say the least. But yeah, I was playing the clarinet, which for many of you out there who don't know, and I won't judge you if you do not know, because I didn't bloody know before I tried it out either. It's kind of a blow-based instrument. I know, blow by blow, it sounds a bit weird, right? I've heard all of them jokes, not that they actually work in Swedish, blows by blows, but they do work in English. And when I've been discussing the clarinet with other people, they're gonna be like, aha, blow by blow, right? That kind of instrument. And I'm like, hilarious, mate, hilarious. But yeah, that was my first instrument. I went to kind of a music con actually when I was younger. I think I was in the 3rd grade. I went to a music con with my parents because obviously, or I'm saying obviously, but I was a bit too afraid to go on my own back in those days. Now I'm like, would involve, I would envelop that challenge, take it on as an experience, right? But back in the day when I was a bit younger, I was like, Mom, Dad, can you go with me, please? And they ended up doing so, which I was, 2 thumbs fresh for those guys. It was really good that I actually got into an instrument to begin with. Or, otherwise I wouldn't, if they wouldn't have gone with me. That's just some cold hard facts, right? I was really afraid when I was working there. Because I remember as we got to this little music conference that was thrown for the 3rd graders in the area, they had kind of a cool room, the room where they had like guitar and they had bass and they had drums and so on and so forth. You know, all the cool stuff that the cool kids used. And I was terribly afraid for people back then. I was really afraid of actually, performing and doing anything in front of anyone. Not that I thought that I was Mozart, right? I'm not talking about performing in that sense. I was just like, talking in front of people, nah, ain't gonna be my thing. I don't know why I'm gesturing, right? You ain't seeing it anyway. But I was really afraid of just talking in front of other people, which I guess is, many people have that problem, I guess, especially when they're younger, because you're small, you're not fully developed. So I was having a bit of a hard time with that. So my dad, I think it was, if I remember correctly, kind of pulled me aside and he was like, you know what, if you don't want to do this in front of all people, we can go to the other room. And so we did, because there was other rooms, and there they had all the blow-based instruments, let's say, and clarinet is one of them. I think the trombone is another one, trumpet is another one, the saxophones and so forth, just to give you kind of an understanding of what kind of instrument I'm talking about. But yeah, I picked the clarinet after a very short test, after a very short arrive tests. Actually, I was just going in there, sitting down with the guy with the clarinet, and he was like, "Do you want to blow in it?" And I was like, "Sure." And I did it, and I was like, I want this one, because I just wanted to go home at that point. Yeah, so the beginning of my music career, let's say, the beginning of my introduction to what real music actually was, let's say, playing an instrument is what I'm trying to formulate here, it's what I'm trying to phrase. My introduction to playing an instrument wasn't the best, let's just put it at that. I kind of stuck with the clarinet, though, for about, I'd like to say 2 years, I think, because I remember a recurring theme that I was at one of my best friend's house, and we were playing on Tuesdays, and my mom or my dad would come pick me up and be like, "We're gonna go for the clarinet lessons," and I was like, "No, I don't wanna," because I guess it was just not the right time for me to do those things. And as some of you know, I have asthma, which is basically means I'm allergic to air. Have a hard time breathing, No, I don't. I'm overplaying it. I have like the least amount of asthma that you can have in order to be diagnosed with having asthma, I think, if I'm correct. It's been bloody like 17 years before since I got the diagnosis, so it could have changed, obviously, but that's what I'm running with at the moment. So it doesn't really matter if you have the least or the most amount of asthma. Well, it does, but still, playing a blow-by-blow based instrument when you have problems just breathing as a normal human being, it's not the best thing ever, which is probably one of the many reasons why I didn't enjoy playing the clarinet that much. So yeah, I played it for about 2 years, and then I just dropped off, because like, this is the most stupid thing I've ever encountered. Not that the teacher was any bad. No, it was really good, actually. I really enjoyed it. Learned some key things about music, got to read a note page, I guess it's called in English, with all the notes and stuff. And that was really good, that I learned that with an instrument that's like really niche and that I'm never going to use again for the rest of my life, because I didn't really own one. I was just renting it. It was a mess. I'm just saying, I wasn't at the right place of my life to pick up an instrument like that and be like, yeah, this is a challenge. It was more like, I guess I can play an instrument so that I have an activity to do besides school. Sure. And I know I'm really blessed being in the position that I could pick and choose whatever I wanted to play, because some people don't have that choice. But I was just a stupid little brat at the time, right? I mean, there's no getting away from that. It was just me at the time wasn't fully developed and fully understanding and fully, I couldn't really enjoy and appreciate the full experience of what I was given and the opportunity I had, and not to mention the amount of free time I had on my hand back in the day, that I still do have to some degree, right? That's what I'm doing this right now. But yeah, I didn't really get the entire blow-by-blow thing or the entire clarinet thing. It wasn't my kind of instrument. I just tuned off and I didn't play it, right? So I played that when I was, let's say, if I can remember, I think I must have been like between 9 to 11, something like that. Yeah, it was something like that. It was like 9 to 11-ish, right? Let's say that. So just to pick it, just to have a number to it, right? So I was quite young when I started playing my first instrument to begin with. But then I've quickly moved over to the next one. And the next instrument that I picked up or that I tried was actually drums. I know. Most people are going to be like, what? You went from a blow-by-blow instrument to drums of all things? Drums is really hard. And when I'm saying I went to drums, that's an exaggeration. You know, when I said I played the clarinet for 2 years, that was actually me trying it out and fully playing it. Or rather, fully trying it out, not being able to play it as much as I probably thought I would be able to play after that. But when I'm saying I was playing the drums, the first time I was playing it, rather, was back in school. Must have been like 2nd or 3rd grade. So I must have been like, let's just say I was 13 at the time. I think it was after I quit clarinet. And we had this session in school when we were trying out different instruments in school instead of at this, what you would say, community event where they were trying out or giving out to all of us, you know, letting the 3rd graders try. Okay, so the 3rd grade. So I must have been like 13. You know, it was a while ago. All of these numbers don't really make sense, but I guess I must have been in the 1st grade when that thing went on, and it was a community event for the 3rd graders, but I was in the 1st. Yeah, it's all over the place, the math. But one thing that is consistent, though, is that I know that I played the drums when I was around 3rd to 4th grade. I'm saying consistent, and I was like, you know, about that time. Anyway, that's not really important. The importance is that it was kind of a while ago. It was around that time. And we were trying out the drums. Yeah, we were trying out them drums because that was cool. That was awesome. So me and a couple of mates, we were going there and we were like, yeah, let's try it out. And obviously we did whatever all kids do when they go to a drum set and they haven't been playing drums before and they don't know anything about drums. We just started mashing the sticks or whatever to the drum set and be like, yeah, we're so cool. And then there was this one guy who I remember we thought was the biggest posh prick ever, right? Who went there and he did like the 4x4 or something like that, which is like the most basic thing you can do on a drum set ever, you know, like that kind of motion, right? With the 2 hands they crossed, and we were just like, you posh prick. Here we was having kind of a good time and you just came and ruined it. But that was kind of a time after that. We played drums in school. I would like to remember it as over a few like music lessons, and I was playing the drums and I was so much more in love with the drums directly than I ever was with the clarinet, which sounds awful that I spent 2 years of my life playing an instrument I didn't like, and then I was, you know, just finding an instrument that I was too afraid to actually try at a community event when I was there, right? I know it's kind of bad that I didn't actually go out and try it, but that's the reason, you know, I've grown. So nowadays I'm trying out all the different things before I actually make a decision, because, you know, kind of want the experience. You kind of want to experience all the things before you make an educated choice. However, that was the first time that I was kind of interacting with drums. It wouldn't be the last, but it was the first time I was interacting with drums, I guess. And it was just such a magical experience, especially in comparison to the bloody clarinet that, oh, it sucked. Let's just be honest, right? It wasn't my kind of... I've said it like 100 times already. I imagine that I'm going to keep saying it, but it wasn't my kind of instrument. Anyway, so that was the first time me playing drums. And I remember I felt like such a rock star. But obviously we didn't... Well, I'm saying obviously. I didn't have a drum set, so, you know, couldn't keep playing it. When I went home, I was like, Mom, Dad, can we buy a drum set? And you could just imagine the face that my parents made when they were looking at like what their 13-year-old. You're like, oh, he's just hitting puberty and he wants a drum set. He's gonna be up all night on that thing, which is gonna make us being up all night. No, you absolutely cannot. And this is, you know, I mind you, before there were like digital drum sets. And even if there was the case that there were digital drum sets, me coming home after like 2 weeks of playing drums in school, they would probably be like, well, is this just something that will fade away over time? Or is it something that you really want to do, right? Because as a parent, I can imagine that you have your kids running around and be like, I'm super passionate about something, you know, for an hour. And then they come back and they're like, no, I'm super passionate about this. And then it goes like 2 weeks and they're like completely flipped everything around, and now they're a doctor or something, right? And 2 weeks prior to that, they wanted to become Spider-Man for their life. So I can imagine that my parents were looking at me with some form of skepticism. They were like, no, for several reasons, because of personal reasons, right? And second of all, because you will be out of this for the next week, and which I was. So all power to them, right? I didn't really care that much. I didn't play the drums a couple of days later, right? But I remember strongly, I was standing there being like, can I have a drum set? And they're like, no. I was like, okay. So I didn't really fight for it, I guess. But as I said, I mind you, this was before there were digital drum sets, so it was going to be an acoustic drum set, which makes a lot of noise, even when you play silently. Don't even know if you can play silently, right? But even if you try, it's still going to make lots of noise. And even if there were digital drum sets, I do not believe they were going to blow up that much cash on me just saying, like, I want to play it for an hour, and then I'm done. Because let's just say that I had previously been doing that with other toys. I've been so explicitly told throughout my more adult life, right? That they've been like, yeah, you totally did that with other things. And that's also a reason for why we didn't give you this. And I was like, I can understand that. Anyway, let's move on to the first meaty part of this topic highlight, which is going to be my first time playing the instrument that I instantly fell in love with. That's a lie. I did not instantly fall in love with the guitar. Let me tell you, it might look like it, right? From how I'm going to talk about it in just a couple of minutes and how I'm, using it each and every day. But yeah, I didn't really like the guitar when I was starting playing it. I remember, as we were playing drums a couple of years later, we were playing the guitar in school. And I was like, this is shit. This is like the worst thing ever. First of all, it's super hard. Second of all, it hurts my fingers because of the strings. Third of all, I gonna bleed on my right hand because I'm right-handed. So when I was like working at the strings, I was kind of started bleeding because just above my nails on my thumb and my pinky, I was like hitting the strings with those kind of knobs or whatever. So yeah, it wasn't the most pleasant experience, let me just say that. And then my dad was trying to learn the guitar simultaneously, and I was listening to him. Not like, oh, I'm going in there and listening to him for hours playing. It was more like I heard him when I was in other parts of the house. That kind of thing. And it wasn't the greatest. Let's just say that, right? I don't know if he's ever gonna watch this or listen to this or not. But let's just say he wasn't Mozart either. He was just like an average beginner, which in my world was like rubbish. At the time, I was like, how can you not be instantly good at something, you prick? I was the prick. So I didn't really like it. I don't think it was until my brother got into it. And when I'm saying get into it, I know, he played Smoke on the Water, the introduction there, which every kid knows how to play because that's the one thing you get to learn in school. And you're like, I mastered this instrument. There's nothing else you can teach me. Except for chords. That's like much easier, but that you think is much harder when you learn it, right? But yeah, it wasn't until my brother started like learning that and I saw him play it that I was like, I think it was kind of the challenge, kind of the chase, I wanted to be better, or I had someone to compete with, right? Just mind you, I have a kid brother who's 2.5, 3 years younger than I am. So for me to at like 13, 14 years old, looking at him and be like, yeah, I'm gonna crush you. It's probably very reasonable, right? I'm older, I'm more developed in my body. I probably have held the guitar more often than he had, and yeah, all of those things. But still, in my mind, I was like, this is a fair fight, this is a fair competition. I need to tell it to him, I need to give it to him. Like, I'm very happy that he did, because I strongly remember I was on the second floor of our house, and I heard him and saw him play, and I was just like, God, I need to get into this. Anyway, I didn't get into it directly. It wasn't until like a few years later that I actually got into it for real, right? I mean, we were playing in school because, that's how we do. We did that with all the instruments, like the entire drumming experience a couple of years back, or a couple of years prior. But then I was in the 7th grade. Yeah, I was in the 7th grade. And my parents had split apart, they divorced. Unfortunate, but that's the thing that happens. I can say that now. Didn't say that then. Whew, I was the opposite way. I was like, how can you do this to me? My life is ruined. But now it's more like, yeah, it was probably for the better. Which is funny how you can see that in hindsight and how it can be such a traumatizing and weird experience at the time, but yeah, it was probably for the best. Anyway, digressing, branching out a bit. But I got a hands on my dad's old guitar. That wasn't a pro guitar by any means, and I do not have it at the moment. I think it is at my mom's house, which is like a bit funny somehow, I guess. Anyway, I was playing in that on that throughout 7th grade, and it wasn't the best guitar. As I said, it was like a beginner's guitar because my dad was a beginner. He was trying to learn the guitar, so I was also learning the guitar in the 7th grade. And it was a magical experience because I got to bond and talk about, playing the guitar in the way that I did with several other friends in school. I'm saying several, it was like 2. There was more than one, so, there's plural. And I was playing the guitar, learning to play the guitar. They were learning to play the guitar. We were kind of exchanging tips and tricks of how we can learn the guitar. And this all progressed to that in the 8th grade, I bought a really cool guitar, like a good guitar. We went to a guitar shop and I got to pick out my own guitar. And I realized now this podcast is going to be so heavy for me to talk about because this is like a guitar that I still own and that I anticipate that I will have for the rest of my life. Because it wasn't the cheapest guitar that they had. It wasn't the most expensive guitar you can ever get your hands on. Surely there are more expensive guitars. I've seen them out there, right? Like 50 times more expensive than mine. But still, the guitar that I got in the time that I got it, when my family was in a certain, economical situation, was just like mind-blowing that I could get that. And ever since, it's kind of symbolized this idea for me that guitar is my main instrument, my instrument of choice, because I played the shit out of that guitar, and I still do, right? I played like hours upon hours on that guitar, and the reason why we got and bought that guitar to begin with, actually, is that because in the 8th grade, me and a friend were kind of, I have a friend of mine who was playing this song on the piano. It was called "The River Flows in You" by Jeruma, by the way. And I was like, well, I don't have a piano. I was trying to kind of learn it on the piano. We'll get there. But I didn't have a piano at home. Funny enough, we had a really nice piano for like 15 years. And then when my parents broke up, they threw it away because both me and my brother was like, no, we don't want it. And my mom didn't want it. And it was my grandpa's old one. So they threw it away. And then when I would turn like 15, 16, and I was in the 8th grade, I was like, dude, mom, I want it. Now I want it. Even though we kind of threw it away 2 years ago, I want it now. But yeah, bottom line was we didn't have a piano in the house at the time this was going on. So as he knew "The River Flows in You" on piano, I was trying to learn it on the guitar. So I was practicing and bloody practicing. And I didn't know any notes by this point because I'd forgotten them since I was playing the clarinet. But I was practicing. I was like looking up YouTube videos, tutorials. I was remembering. I was looking at them play, and then I was continue playing. This was kind of how I learned each and every aspect of the guitar as I know it today. I was watching YouTube videos and stuff, which is kind of also why YouTube is kind of monumental in my world on how to play anyway. And my mom kind of saw this and she was like, dude, to my dad, she was like, dude, we need to get him a real guitar. This kid is sitting in there for hours upon hours on end and just watches people play, and then he tries to learn it. And then after a while, after 2 or 3 weeks or something like that, I knew the entire song by heart and could play it, without help. And that was kind of the turning point for my parents to be like, yeah, we're gonna give you a nice guitar because it really seems like you're putting in the effort and you're putting in the time, not like you did with the drums. It didn't actually come up, but I'm thinking it now, like if I'd put in the time with the drums, they probably would have had the same reaction. But I did this with the guitar, and we went and bought this really nice guitar. And as I said, I played for hours and hours and hours on that guitar and that thing. That was like the biggest thing that I had gotten in my life up until that point. And to me, today, even today, monumentally, the worth of it, to some degree, it's still the best thing I've ever gotten. Because sure, you get things when you're a kid, right? When you're really, really young, when you're an infant, when you're a baby or whatever, that you maybe still have or that you would like to have because you've I don't know, lost it or it's got trashed or anything. Uh, but this was the first thing that I got that I wanted. I picked it out. I chose it myself. I really enjoyed it directly when we got it, and I still have an enjoyment for it, and it's taught me so much. It just have such a monumental value to me, this guitar, this specific one. It doesn't matter if if it would have cost like 10 or a million quid. Now in hindsight, it's just that it's my guitar, and it's the guitar, right? It was the first guitar that I ever owned. And it was such a monumental experience, as I said. It was, wow, it was just mind-blowing to have. So that was me playing the guitar for the first time, and then getting my own guitar and playing that for the first time, which I can't ever explain to you the change and the impact that moment had on my life. The moment of me sitting down with this guitar, and I was just thinking like, this is something I'm gonna have for the rest of my life. Now obviously it's not the same as having a kid. I know that. I'm not trying to say that, right? Even if it might sound like, oh, I'm getting something that is going to be with me forever and monumentally change my life. A kid is probably, it's most likely 99% sure a more awesome experience in that regard. I can't say because I don't have one, but I can imagine that that's even cooler, which is hard for me to imagine because this is just the best thing that ever happened to me. And this guitar just it kind of reflected how far I had gotten at this point as a super amateur, learn by myself musician. How much I had learned by looking at YouTube, how much I taught myself, and it was such a huge milestone in my life that I'm still looking back at, and I'm like, wow, that's so etched into my memory. The smell, the timing of the day, the looking around in that shop and being like, oh, the guy who owns this is a bit sketchy. I remember sitting down and playing on it. It's just as I said, it's really hard to explain, but it was such a monumental experience. It had such an impact on my life. It's crazy. Anyway, I've had it with me ever since. Unless that you count that 6 months I was in Bordeaux and I didn't bring it because I didn't want it to break on the plane. But yeah, it's kind of like those artifacts from my life, from my younger life. Even though I'm 22, so I'm worldwide. I know everything, right? But from when I was even younger, that I still remember. It was like it's even more monumental than the day I lost my virginity or whatever, right? It's not you probably can't even compare the two because they're so drastically different things. But if I could say now, I'd say that they're up there. They're tying because even if and maybe the guitar is even pulling through because it's still something that it's the gift that keeps on giving. And I still have it. So wow, it's it's hard to say, but it's really up there with the key things that changed my life. Anyway, guitar. First time playing the guitar. Done with that. The third question is, oh my days, this is just me going through. This is, I don't know how entertaining this is from a scale from 1 to 10, right? But for me, this is just like going through memory lane. Because the next one is first electric guitar, though. And I remember this quite vividly. Because I was going down on my... No, sorry. Wow. Me talking about losing my virginity and then starting off a sentence with... So I was going down. No, but me and a couple of mates, as I said, we were learning the guitar in school. And we had mopeds, which I do not know if you know what it is, if you're looking from anywhere else in Sweden, because I'm trying to say this abroad and people are like, mopeds? What's that? What I mean is scooters, right? So we had scooters when we were about 15, 16, because that's when you could get them. And we were learning the guitar, which was awesome. And we were talking about the electric guitar. We were looking at this one guy at YouTube who was called Sunga Jung, who is playing the guitar. It's quite good. I'd say it's above average. Yeah. No, it's like really good. It's like a mind-blowing experience to watch him play. But yeah, we were talking about how amazing it wouldn't be to have an electric guitar. And we'd been talking about this for, let's just say, an average like 2 years, maybe, something like that. Ever since we started in the 7th grade, we'd been talking about, oh, it would be so awesome to have a electric guitar, right? And I do not remember exactly which season it was. I don't even remember which classes we had or which day it was, which week it was, whatever. But I remember vividly that it was cold. Because the same day as we'd been discussing it for years, but then one of my friends said like, oh, I'm gonna get the electric guitar this weekend, and I was like, dude, I need to have one before you. So I went on my moped, on my scooter, and I went to the closest mall, and we didn't have any, as I know it, we didn't have any, or sorry, as I remember it, we didn't have any music stores at the mall. However, what we did have was this kind of technician shop. They were selling like a bit of everything. They were like an all in all or whatever, and they were selling like a bit of everything. And they had a package, like a beginner's package, for a electric guitar, or for an electric guitar. And I've been looking at it before, but I was like, I have a really good guitar at home. I don't want to buy me down. You know, you get what I'm saying? You know, you bought something that's of a certain piece of quality, you know, of a certain quality, and you don't want to degrade yourself because, you know, I played on a beginner's guitar for a long while, and I was like, that wasn't the problem until I played on the real one that I got later on. I was like, dude, it's such a big difference on the quality of the two different guitars, right? But I was looking at this, and I'd been thinking about it for a while. I'd been seeing it for months, and then I heard my friends at the day being like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get one this week, and I was like, yeah, it's gonna be this one. You know, everybody needs to start somewhere, right? That kind of mentality. Instead of me at a younger age being like, oh, I don't want to try out the drums, I don't want to try out the guitars because there's too many people there. I'm gonna go run and play the clarinet, which, by the way, isn't the instrument for me. I don't know if I told you, right, but it's not the instrument for me. So now it was more like, you know what, I'm gonna buy this. I'm just gonna get into it and experience it, because at least then I'm gonna know if it's something that I want to further invest in, right? So I went in there, bought it. Couldn't bring it on my scooter because it was the guitar and it was the amplifier, and yeah, I had a scooter. So I said like, well, I'm gonna send someone to pick it up. You know, sounding like a pure rich boy, yeah. Obviously, it was my mom that was nice enough to actually pick it up after work. So she picked it up, brought it home. I was driving home in the cold early in the day, and I was just waiting. And when she got home, I opened it up, and I couldn't get it to work. It was such a funny experience, right? So I'd been driving there, buying it impulsively almost. I've been looking at it for months and talking about it for years, but it was still kind of impulsive, right? That I was buying it at the time and at the day I did without any further plan of how are we going to get it home. So I brought it home and I fixed everything, and I was like, I can't get it to work. Why doesn't it work? And yeah, this sounds really funny to me now, and it's probably going to sound really funny to any of you out there who know anything about an electric guitar. But I had not connected the cord between the guitar and the amplifier. Yeah. So, by the way, this is at the time when Bluetooth is a thing, you know? It's cool with Bluetooth. And I thought, since it had a Bluetooth icon on the amplifier, that it was going to automatically connect. And I didn't really know what the cord was for. Because obviously I'm a man, I don't read the manuals. That's like admitting defeat. So yeah, instead I was a posh prick, spending a good 3 hours being mad about that my guitar, my electric awesome guitar that I spent my allowance on or whatever, didn't actually work. Yes, that kind of mindset. And then it took like my mom and my brother's accumulative power to, after about 5 seconds, point out that, yeah, have you tried to connect the cord? And I was like, no, you don't have to. And then I tried, and I was like, oh, I'm a dummy. I obviously didn't say that. I was a posh teen, I was an arrogant teenager. I was like, you know what? I could have gotten it myself. I kind of knew it. I just didn't want to try that because it was too obvious, blah, 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 blah. And all of those things, as you probably, kind of would anticipate an arrogant teenager to say. Not that that makes it any better, but that's just the case, right? And then I started playing it, and it was awesome. Even though the amplifier was kind of shit. So it was awesome for like 5 minutes, and then I was like, wow, this amplifier is shit. Funny thing though, funny story, worked with that amplifier that was shit, learned some songs on the electric guitar that was like electric guitar specific, like heavy metal or whatever. Didn't get a new amplifier, didn't invest in a new amplifier until last year. So we're talking 8th, 9th grade. Let's say 9th grade. So it's 9th grade. We count that as year 1, right? So 1 year. And then we have all 3 years of high school. That's 3. And then additional 2 years at university. So 5 years I played with this utter shit amplifier that was so bad I couldn't even wake up my neighbors if I tried with my electric guitar, right? I could play at 3 o'clock at full burst and no one would wake up. That's the amount of power that my amplifier had. I was so disappointed. And still, I went with it for like about 5 years until I got a new one. And the one I have now, I haven't even tried having it at the fullest setting because at like a fifth of the way, I need to have headphones on. You know, not headphones connecting the sound of the headphones, just, you know, sound canceling headphones because it's too loud. And I love it. Finally, I have a functional working amplifier. That is great. Anyway, so enough on me living on with my shit amplifier for 5 years and my really half bad electric guitar, I guess. I mean, I didn't realize that it was good or bad. You know, I couldn't judge if it was good or bad with the shit amplifier I had. But now that I got a good amplifier, I can be like, well, it's not the best electric guitar ever. But still, I do not believe that the quality of the sound is going to be that much different buying a new electric guitar as it was changing the different acoustic guitars. Well, as I said, that's been a lot about guitars here, guitars there. It's been a lot about guitars overall. Let's talk about the first time me playing piano. And I'm not talking like the average kid just being picked up, sat at the piano and being like, bling, 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 I can play piano. And the you know, the parents are like, yeah, he's so talented. He's not a Mozart though, but it's so talented. He can like play the piano, he can like play a key. Wow, he's so cool. And yeah, no, we're not talking that. I do not consider that as like my first time playing the piano. My real time first playing the piano was in the 8th grade. Funnily enough. And as I said, we'd had a piano at my home for, like, I grew up with the piano and a grandfather who plays piano like a lot. He has 2 now, one upstairs, one downstairs, just to, you know, be able to play. We're talking that level of commitment, right? And we had a piano in my house for 15 years, approximately, like 12. Like for all I can remember in my childhood, we had a piano there. And then when I finally wanted to play the piano, because I started playing the piano in the 8th grade, we didn't have one. It's kind of funny. It's just, you know, one of life's great, mysteries, or one of life's great, you know, I don't know, lessons that don't throw away stuff that you do not know if you're going to use in the future or whatever, which leads to, you know, people just collecting stuff. You're becoming a collector or whatever, a scavenger. But yes, so that was me. No, but then I first encountered the piano in 8th grade because, as I said, I had a friend who could play the River Flows in You, and I was so excited to have someone who knew how a piano worked, because to me it was just like 88 keys of pure madness. Sure, they made some sort of sound, but it was all random. And I played. When I pressed a key, it made a sound. When I pressed another key, it made a completely different sound. To put things into perspective, the guitar has 6 strings, right? Now I know now that the piano has 8 octaves. I don't know what you call them in English, octave in Swedish, which is like 8 categories of the keys are divided in, so like 11 in each, I guess, because there are 88 in total. Just me making an assumption on the fly, I'd say. Should probably check that out, but it sounds reasonable, right? So they're divided in a similar way that a guitar is, right? Or at least you can think about it in the same way when you just, you know, to make it really simple. And then you have the different, bands on the piano that you can play, on the guitar that you can play up and down on, the different bands, and those are kind of representing the different keys. So to some extent, the combination of different keys on the piano can be more complex than the combination of playing up and down the what should we say, the neck of the guitar. However, the amount of notes on the guitar is probably more than the pure notes on the piano. Like you have 128 on a guitar, I guess, with like 15 strokes, and then you have like 88 on the piano, but then you can combine them in different ways. Anyway, technical stuff that I'm not really 100% sure on because I didn't study piano or guitar. I've learned them all myself. Self-taught, right? Or rather, self-taught with friends, I must say. And that were also self-taught. But yeah, so I had a friend who could play this because he had been practicing for hours and hours and hours and days and days and days, right? And I sat down one day, one afternoon after school, right? You know, just like a random 8th grader. And I was like, do you know what? I approached him and I was like, do you know what? Do you want to go to like the music room? And he's like, yes, I'd love to go to the music room, because he was also really into music. Something that we kind of bonded over, and we were going to high school later and we were kind of talking about music all the way through there, even though we were studying tech, to be engineers at the high school level, which had nothing to do with music. Anyway, so we were starting bonding there over the piano, and he was like, you know what, sit down and just press the keys. And I was like, okay. So I was sitting down pressing the keys. He was trying to show me the chords, but I was obviously thinking that, or I thought they were really boring to play the chords because they were really complex and I didn't understand, and I was unfamiliar with having my hands on the keyboard and things like that. So I was like, can't you just show me the thing that you did, the song that you played? And he was like, but that's so much more complex. And I was like, well, at least it's like a challenge to get my hands used to it, right? So it's something that I can practice on. So he's like, well, sure then. And he started to show me like the first 10 seconds of the song. Now, I tried to play those 10 seconds of that song for, let's see so I do not exaggerate here. Let's make a conservative estimate, 4 weeks. Right? I tried to play those 10 seconds for about 4 weeks before I got the hang of it, how I would actually move my fingers, because it was a huge problem for me just moving my fingers to the rhythm on the piano, which is really strange because it was really easy on the guitar but really hard on the piano. I do not know if that was just because, well, the piano looked a bit different, or if it was another part of me that was like another part of the brain or something, but it was just so extremely hard for me to play it on the piano. So it took about 4 weeks for me to just learn the first 10 seconds of the song. And when I did that, I went to him and I was like, well, now I know the first 10 seconds of the song. He's like, well, I'm going to show you 10 more. And that went really quick in comparison. It only took like, half a week or something, which still is quite extensive, but at least I, flicked around with my fingers of the keyboard. I tried other things. It wasn't just me playing the same 10 seconds of a song for 4 weeks. It was me trying to do other stuff as well, which is kind of the reason why it took so long. And I didn't just play this, and I didn't have a piano at home, so it was only like selective times over these 4 weeks that I could actually play. Me just trying to defend myself, right, for why it took so long. But then he showed me the rest, another part, and I was playing that, and then another part, and I was playing that, and all of a sudden, I'd been able to play all of the song, or at least as far as he knew, right? And just a disclaimer, it was a part of the song, like a middle part, a riff or whatever you call it, that he didn't know. And to this day, I still don't know that part either, which is hilarious. But yeah, so I had, after like, I don't know, 4 months, 6 months, maybe even a year. I know it's really huge, the ranges I'm playing with, right? For about 4 to 12 months, somewhere in between, I learned the entire song. I was able to play the entire song with hiccups, so with problems, because that was also because I was focusing on other things at the time, sure, but over the course of like, let's say a year, I was learning this song. And then and that was like kind of my opening window to play, because I think that many people are moving in and they're learning chords and they think that, well, now I know that, then starting playing freely with their hands is really hard. Because, well, it is really hard. It's really hard to use two hands at once. I get that. But I think going that way makes more sense, but it creates this idea of, wow, this is really hard. me, I was the other way around, because when I was done playing this song, as I said, with hiccups, I was like, well, now you can show me chords. I didn't really say it like that, but he was like, do you want me to show you chords now? And I was like, yeah, let's take it to the other level. And I was doing that, and now that was a lot easier. I mean, we're talking like an afternoon, maybe two, and I had gotten all of the chords in my mind. Now, that doesn't mean that I could, shift between them a lot, but it's just, that I had the C, the G, the F, the E minor, the A minor, the D minor, the B minor. I had those on lockdown, right? It just took, let's say, a week, right? Let's give me the benefit of that. It took me a week to kind of understand, oh, this is how I'm supposed to hold my hands in order to play this. And mind you, this was just the right hand. And then it took another like 1 or 2 weeks to actually do with the left hand as well and move that along. And then after a while, let's say like 2 months, like halfway through 9th grade, I was able to play with chords. But I didn't know how to construct them. I only knew the chords that it was showing me, which was creating a problem down the line. Because down the line, I can just say this now so that we get it over with. Over the course of the next 5 to 6 years, I was playing chords because I was playing like guitar songs with the guitar that I knew, and I was like, oh, I could try this on the piano, because I later on got around to actually buying a keyboard that I still have to this day. In high school sometime, I think it was like my first year of high school. It must have been, or maybe it was the end. No, it was the. I got it as a Christmas gift, so it was the Christmas of 2012. I got a keyboard that I still have to this day. Wow, I have lots of instruments from a long time ago that I want to upgrade. Not all of them, but some of them. The keyboard is one of them because it doesn't have like weighted keys, so they feel like they don't have any resistance in them, which kind of pissed me off right off at the time. But I was still really happy about having a piano to begin with, so well, I got over it. But until like 3 months ago, like two or 3 months ago, no, it must have been less. Let's just say, I do not really remember exactly, but up until like 1.5, 2 months ago, from the time I was taught the chords, I did not know how to construct chords, which meant when I was playing guitar songs on the piano, I could only play to the extent that I knew chords preemptively, right? So I knew like 4 or 5, 6 preemptive chords. If they used other chords in the song, I couldn't play them. So it just meant that I had to skip them or played something similar to it. So if there was an open A, I couldn't play the open A on the piano. So I was like, well, I play an A minor instead, which kind of makes it hard to sing along because it's not the right note. It's not the right key, whatever. So that was kind of an issue. But anyway, getting ahead of myself. But yeah, so that was when I was learning the piano in the 9th grade. Yeah, in the 9th grade, I was kind of having it on lockdown, and now I have it even more so on lockdown. But yeah, I got around talking to my parents again. I was like, well, you see, I can play the piano-ish. And they were like, yeah, you're really good. And I was like, you see, it's the same song as when I started playing the guitar. And they were like, yeah, it's really good. And I was like, I'm trying to imply that I want a piano. And they're like, oh, yeah. Maybe next year. So I was keeping it in and keeping it on and keep saying, and I wished for it. And finally I got one. And then I started to learn stuff again. I learned a couple of songs, yet again, as I said, from YouTube, just watching YouTube, right? And trying to play the same way as they did. I learned like the River Flows in You. No, I already knew that, but I learned the other song, which, what's it called? The My Heart Will Go On. Yeah, I learned those two by heart. And I remember vividly playing them over and over again. And I had moved to my dad's at this point, and my dad was coming into my room, and he was like, and this is like after weeks I've had this and played it, and he was like, son, I'm fully supporting that you're playing piano, but I thought when we were giving you a piano that you were going to do more than you just play the same 4 chords over and over again. And when you shift from that, when you move over to play with your hands, let's say more freely, that you would play more than the 2 songs over and over and over again. And I must give it to him. He must have had so much patience with me before he said that, because I played these same songs over and over and over again after I got my piano for weeks, because I was so happy I could play them. And it's just like such a mindset, even with the guitar. it's kind of cool when you play music and you play the music. I know that much must sound really strange to someone who don't play an instrument or do not romanticize the idea of playing music, but let me try to explain it even further. The idea of listening to music is cool, right? Like people are making music. And then when you can replicate that and you can fully control when something comes and you play, when something's about to happen, when a certain key or a certain note is supposed to be played and you play it exactly right and you just feel like you're one with the music because you're the one making it, you're the one controlling it, and you're like in it in the moment. That's so cool. So to me, I didn't mind that I was playing the same two songs or the same four chords or whatever over and over and over and over and over again, because to me it was like a magical experience every time. And I shit you not, it still is. I can play The River Flows in You, and I do frequently, or my heart will go on without looking at the keys and just looking up in the room or trying to look away to kind of make a challenge for me. And it's such an awesome experience every time to be able to play from start to finish and feel like, I know this song. I'm making these sounds and it sounds good. It's so cool. Anyway, so that was me encountering different instruments. And as I said, I was playing the drums when I was a bit younger, and then I bought congas when I was moving into my current apartment. So that's about 2 years ago, and that's about as much story that is to be had with them. But yeah, that was the first time me playing the clarinet, which isn't really my instrument. I don't know why I didn't pick a cool, good instrument that I actually wanted to continue with. But by the way, to some extent, I might be happy that I didn't, because if I started to play guitar at a point in time when I wasn't ready to do it, then maybe I would never have picked it up later on and actually tried to use it as a challenge to actually get over and use it. So maybe I'm subconsciously happy that I picked the clarinet because I didn't really got invested in it and didn't destroy another instrument. But yeah, it was kind of shit, to be honest, right? And then just for me, I'm sure there's many people out there who's really good with it, and I'm really envious of you because it's a really cool instrument to play now in hindsight. But yeah, at the time when I got into it, just wasn't my jam. Yeah. And the first time playing drums in school, the first time playing guitar, which was such a magical experience. No, it wasn't. But a couple of years later, it was such a magical experience to pick it up by myself and get my own guitar. I can't explain how cool it was. And I have it, and I can almost reach out and touch it at a moment. That's going to be like a family heirloom if it doesn't get destroyed in a fire or anything. It's going to be like my grandkids, and yeah, I'm calling it that now. My kids and grandkids are gonna have to keep that thing in pristine condition over the rest of time. Not just my kids and my grandkids, but their grandkids' kids and their grandkids and their grandkids, right? I'm gonna pass this on until I can forever make it into something that's never gonna be destroyed, never gonna deteriorate, because it means so much to me. Anyway, let's move on to what it means to me. Yeah, because I've been talking about my experiences with music, with different instruments, but what does music actually mean to me? And we're gonna get down dark and heavy, so bear with me. You might want to skip ahead like 20 minutes or however long this is gonna take. But this is gonna be a heavy part. It might just be me talking about it for 5 minutes because it's very heavy. But yeah, just a pretext, just a pre-warning, a disclaimer, right? When I was in high school, in my senior year, I had a bit, let's just call it like that, of an existential crisis. You know, the idea of, I'm not a millionaire at this point. Because when you're a kid, you kind of start every sentence about your future, or I did, with, when I get rich, or, when I get famous, I'm going to do this, this, and this, X, Y, and Z. And at some point in your life, you have to own up to that, well, I'm not a millionaire yet. It probably ain't going to happen soon. I mean, it could if I break through with anything, or if I find out something that's amazing. Or sure, it could happen. But it most realistically, probably to me at that point in time, would not happen anytime soon, if ever. And that's a really kind of heavy realization to have, especially for me and my friends who were like, oh yeah, we're going to become musicians because we love music. But sometimes loving something isn't good enough. You need to act on it as well. So this in correlation, in conjunction with that, I had a really a really good relationship, I'd say, that I got out of, and then jumped straight into another one without actually dealing with the breakup of the first one, which was like my first real relationship, and then getting out of the second one and being forced to deal with both of them. Together with that, and this is gonna sound so strange, together with that, it went so good in school that I felt like I'm at the peak now in school wise. Before I got my grades, but I had such a good feeling about it, which turned out to be rather good. I got like straight A's. No, I got 1B in my third year of high school, but I didn't know that then. I was, that's for 6 months later. But in the middle of my senior year, I had all of these things that, they just happened all at once. And there was stuff from my past, like kind of piling on. And I just got so depressed. I mean, really down in the dumps. I like fell to a really dark place. And without getting any further into that than is necessary, because just saying it is kind of a big deal, right? Because I was really out of reach. I mean, we're talking, yeah, just really bad at all levels. And something interesting, really, because I always, romanticized drugs and stuff. And I was, because I looked up to lots of musicians and they tend to do drugs or stuff like that. Not saying that every musician does them, right? But it's just that, it was a possibility. And I was in a place where I could have gotten them. I didn't take them. And I think that says a lot about character, or my character at least. But yeah, just branching out. But I was really down in the dumps, and instead of, and I dealt with that and I'm really fortunate that I had friends who really got into it and were an active part of getting me out of it, and parents and a brother and a family overall that was really into helping me out. Really into helping me out, as if that was like a fling or a thing to be into or whatever. No, but they really helped me out there. And I never appreciate, I've had such a, you do not really appreciate your family until you realize like how important they really are to you. That's also a realization that you have to make, the same kind of realization as, oh, I'm not going to become a millionaire. Kind of open your eyes to what you have and realize that, wow, I'm so fortunate and so lucky in what I have. It's crazy that I was depressed, right? But anyway, I was really down in the dumps, but I was fortunate enough to have friends to help me out of it, and many to be sure, right? And I think that I was in a position that was like, you know how some people have the theory that when society progresses and becomes better, like suicide and depression becomes, a higher rate of, or a higher percentage of mortality of the population, just because, we've ironed out the kinks in the rest of it. So that just naturally happens, that even if we have the same amount of suicides and depression now post-development as pre-development, it's just that we've ironed out a lot of kinks, and fixed other stuff, that these are becoming much more prominent in the proportions of the population. Anyway, I know exactly what I want to say, but I do not really know how to phrase it. My idea is that even if they're the same amount before and after development, there's still going to be a higher percentage of deaths because of this. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I was probably in a situation when I was falling to this very dark place, but I was still very fortunate and hadn't really opened my eyes for how fortunate I was and appreciate the things that I actually had. And I would even go so far to argue, I have a friend who is of the state of mind of this, that someone who haven't really gone through a depression, or this, not necessarily a depression, but this realization of opening up their mind. This sounds like such a hippie talk, but opening up their mind to how fortunate you are, if you are, right? not saying that everybody are of many are, most people are, I would argue, but there are some who are very misfortunate. But someone who hasn't gone through that realization of, wow, I really haven't realized as much as I have, I can't really trust them. I'm not saying that I can't trust people who haven't been depressed, right? That's ludicrous. But it's for me and for many people I'm met post this experience, I've been kind of implying the same thing, that getting into it wasn't fun. Getting out to it kind of taught me a lot about what I have and given me perspective on a lot of things. Anyway, the reason, right, why I'm getting into this, sorry for getting you down there for a while, is because one of the big reasons of me getting out of it was music. One of the things that were kind of guiding me out of this dark place and dark time in my life, it was 100% it was a lot to do with my friends, my family, and other circumstances, sure, but one of the big reasons was also music. And that is because, as we're going to get into later on, my brother really liked music, and me really like, I really like my brother, and we all really have a good connection. So trying to get into music because would have more things to talk about was one reason, but also because I really found, this is gonna be sounding so corny, so cheesy. I really found myself in the music, and I found an escape, or rather, not as much an escape as, oh, there's problem in the world and I can escape the world. More like I was escaping the world, and this was a way of finding my way back to where I was before, or to a better place, I would argue. So yeah, music really helped me getting out of there, and not just listening to music, because many people are like, or many people I've encountered was like, this song, I say that, I remember this song is the time I was going through a hard time. I'm more like creating music, playing music yourself and coming up with new ways of playing music and new ways of expressing yourself through music was really a way for me getting out of it, and getting out a lot of feelings and a lot of misfortune and stuff like that, which was also reflected in me trying to write my own songs, which I did to different amounts of proficiency, right? Or different degrees of success. They were really reflecting this idea that, I'm coming back from a bad place, but the world is still good and stuff like that. And to some degree, that's still reflected in the songs I'm trying to write now, when I try to write songs. But yeah, it really got me out of a dark place. And I'm sure you can do this with any passion of yours, that you can just use that in order to have this an anchor to reality that you can kind of pull back at when you're in a place of doubt. No matter if you're depressed, or if you're just going through a bit of a hard time, or if you're just a bit down for the day, right? You can kind of drag yourself back through through your passion. But for me, that was music. So music have had a huge impact on where I am today and who I am today as a person. Me playing all of these instruments, and that's why I also said went through me interacting with all of these instruments to begin with, because that also played a huge role of me like doubling down on, well, I've interacted with lots of different instruments, let's double down on the instruments that I have, and let's try and do something with them and actually learn them, instead of trying to learn them half and half and then move on to the next one, which also been really good, because I'm more content and I'm more happy with where I am at with my instruments today than if I would have just continued piling on different instruments that I didn't really know how to use. And I was doubling down on that. So yeah, that was me in my dark place. Very brief and very quick. I might do a full podcast on, or a full topic highlight on that era and that time, if I feel it's necessary to talk about, or if I feel like I need to relieve myself of that time and share it, right? Or if anyone wants to listen to it, then sure, I'm open to this, but it shouldn't be taking away the entire experience of this topic highlight. So, what it means to me, let's continue with connecting with my brother. Because as I said, I was moving out at this time, and partially a reason for me picking up music was because me and my brother had grown, and this is kind of funny, when me and my brother was living together, we grew distant of each other. But as soon as because you develop at different paces and at different speeds, because you're not equally as old, or me and my brother was, and there was a 3-year difference, 2.5, 3-year difference. So I was developing faster than he was. Because I was older, and I went through things, and then he went through them. So I was like, I've already went through those things, and I kind of imagine that's a reason for why you drift apart with your siblings. But that's because, and also because you see each other all the time, so you get on each other's nerves, and you get mad, and you don't really appreciate the good times that you have with each other. But as soon as I kind of moved away to my dad's, and my brother was living with my mom's, we instantaneously got a better relationship. I'm not talking like, oh, it took a year for us to fall back into, a really good place. No, I'm talking like the day I left, like, or perhaps the week afterwards. Like the weekend when we met, I was like, brother. And he was like, bro, I love you. And I was like, I love you. Obviously, we didn't say that because we're men, right? We're guys. We was like, punching each other a bit because, that's what we do. And then we hugged and we're like, but not really because, we're guys. And then we grew out of that quite quickly. And we were like, yeah, I love you, bro. Yeah, I love you too. And hugged for real. But there was, so there might have been like a half rough transition period, but it was instantaneously bettered after that. But so a reason for me was, so I wanted to, connect with him because you want to, right? When you have a friend, a best friend, you want to have similar, and they have an interest, you're like, oh, I can get into this, and I already kind of do this. Let's use that to get ourselves together, to bond over this. So we did, or so I tried to do that. So with music. So that was a further incentive for me to play music and what it actually meant to me. Because sure, music meant to me, getting back to where I was after the previous dark times or whatever you want to call it. And it was also a huge developing part of my life, getting to interact with different, with different instruments, learning different things, actually feeling very accomplished, feeling this extreme attachment to something that I got, my guitar. And now I could pile on, make friends. And I could pile on to that as well, to that list. Pile on sounds bad, but I could add on to that list, connecting with my brother. So music is just, it became so much more overnight when I realized that, even further than what it already was to me. So it was really cool. So yeah, music to me is not just creating music and expressing yourself, elevating yourself and further develop your own skills, or connecting with people. It's also building, connecting with people is, and having it as a passion and an anchor in your life. It's also building bridges and building connections and understanding how people interact and kind of getting together. And it was such a cool interaction too. And yet again, I'm talking about something that I've always probably kind of known, but that realization of putting words to it in your head and be like, yeah, this is what it is. Because I'm sure that you've had stuff that you kind of knew already, especially when you get to university. There's stuff like, oh, I already knew this, but I've never really put words into a theory, into this thing, and I never really gotten around proving it. But now that you say it's obvious, that's kind of the way I felt with music, right? That, oh, I've already known, and I've always known that this was the case, but I've never really truly paused and understood it, which was a great experience, right, for me. But let's try and move on to the last question here so that we actually get done. I have two. Yeah, state of mind in Bordeaux with no guitar. Okay, let's move on to a bit of a cheerier note. When I went to Bordeaux for 6 months, it was the first time since I was 21 when I went. That was the first time since I was about 14. By the way, I said I was like 10, 11 before with the clarinet. I must have been like 8 or 9. Yeah, that makes more sense. Anyway, digressing, side note. And I was 11 in 3rd grade. Yeah. Oh, it was such a long time ago now. So I was, ever since I was 14, I had an instrument by my side pretty much, if I wanted to play with one, until I went to France. 6 months. I was like, surely I can take it. I had this project thinking, I was thinking about creating my own company at the time. I was thinking about YouTube stuff. I was thinking about a lot of things. And I thought, I'm going abroad. I won't have time to play because I have so many bloody things to do, so much to travel, which I did as well. But halfway through the journey, I was like, oh, I need something. So I went down to a guitar shop and I bought a guitar. And that has become my traveling guitar. kind of funny actually. I was so close to throwing like a physical tantrum in my apartment the week before I got it. I was like, I really need some music equipment, of some sort, because I'm going crazy. But yeah, I got one, and now I have an extra one, and it's kind of good. It's my traveling thing. Yeah, as I said, it's my traveling guitar. Funny thing as well that I didn't mention was that when I was trying to learn guitar, I was so confident when I was like in 7th grade, before I got my own guitar, I was so confident that I knew the chords and stuff like that on the guitar. So I started to make my own YouTube channel back then, and it was so cringy. It's not that this one, and I would love to find the login information if the videos are even archived still from back then, but this must have been like 2009, 2010, something like that. Yeah, I was filming with my phone, editing it on my phone at the time, which was like one of the, like, it was pre iPhone 3 times, it was, the iPhone was like really new or didn't exist. And I had a phone before that was like semi-touch. It was a Sony Ericsson that you could slide up, and it had like its own little keyboard. It was the best phone I've ever had. I still stand about that statement. I would love to have one now, but I used that to film, edit, and upload, and it was so cringy. I remember showing my mom, like, Mom, look what I did with this video, and she was like, yeah, maybe you should make a retake. And I got so offended. I was like, isn't it perfect? And she was like, I love you, but and I was like, okay, this is gonna go downhill. But that was like first time I used music, or music and video. But anyway, I moved. The reason why I take that up is because the next question that I had for myself now, and now it's gonna be the last one, is why I'm making music videos now. And that sounds really glamorous. I'm not making music videos, like dancing or anything to them. I'm just filming me playing music and putting it up online on this channel. Probably gonna come out every Sunday over the summer. At least that is the idea, right? The idea with the entire project. Why I'm doing that? Well, as I said in the first video, I was thinking all the way back to like when I did that, and I got extremely traumatized about the entire experience. Because some people in my class found it, and it was horrible. One of the many times I tried starting on YouTube, by the way, I might add. And if I'd only done it then and actually continued, I might have been huge. I might be huge on YouTube, but I didn't. So I must stand my ground of what I did, right? But I did that, and I got extremely traumatized about the entire experience. Not like traumatized, I'm never going to do this again, obviously, because here I am. But more like, it was going to take me a few years to get over it. So ever since I started with this YouTube channel, and even before I started with this YouTube channel, I was thinking about, I kind of want to do music, right? I want to do it to some degree, to some extent. But the problem was, ever since then, I was like, but I don't have the right quality though, and I want to have the right quality. So over the time of the years that I've been thinking about this, I've accumulated more and more equipment for recording. But I'm still like, I'm never really there. I'm not far enough. I'm not really getting there. Let's push it a bit more. Let's buy some more equipment. And then I'm never ending up using the bloody equipment. So it's more like, well, this was a dead investment, wasn't it? The biggest sunk cost in my life. So I was like, let's just try to start doing music now, and let's see where I'm ending up. Maybe it won't go anywhere, and I can quit doing this because it's just stupid getting stuff that buying stuff just because I should, or just because I feel like I need to, and never use it. So instead, let's just start and let's just see what happens. And it's a good exercise as well, trying to, listen to myself playing and singing, because it's a good opportunity for me to learn how I actually sound and do different iterations and stuff like that. And the reason why I'm filming it is because, well, it fits good in with the daily upload schedule. I can upload one of those and I get pretty satisfied. But yeah, the reason why I'm doing it, and I'm kind of summarizing it rather quickly in the first video, is because I don't have the right equipment. I know that. And we're talking a bit about the lifelong dream, as I said as well, because I wanted to play music to some degree, to some extent, in some form or fashion, like always. ever since I stopped playing the clarinet and started trying out the drums, I was like, this is magic and I want to do this, right? So that is the reason why I'm putting them up now, just because, well, this was just the straw that broke the camel's back. Let's do it. Let's try to invest, because I did a video series on, or a little video project on startups a while back, like a couple of months ago. And then I was talking about, you know, it's not good enough with an idea. It's not good enough with a plan. You should execute it as well. And then it's about how you execute it, right? And I thought about that for a while, a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, okay, let's just start. Let's just pick out a song and let's go with that. And that's what I'm doing now. My current format is that I'm picking a song on Sunday night, because I've recorded on Sunday. And then I work on that. I listen to it on Monday to Tuesday, start practice it on Wednesday and Thursday, practice a lot on Friday because I'm free from work on Fridays. And then I start recording on Saturday, see how it sounds with the SNR. Not simultaneously, obviously, but I'm, in the same time. And then I'm fully recording it on Sunday. Except for one day when I was fully recording it on a Saturday, but I was releasing it on a Sunday. I think it was the first one. I kind of shifted the entire upload schedule there. But yeah. But that's how I'm going about it now. And then I'm picking a new song on Sunday night. Because I was thinking, like, as many other things I do, I'm showing off to you guys who listen and who watch how I'm developing the channel. So if I'm introducing something new, instead of trying it out for myself, I'm trying it out in a video, see how it turns out, and I'm like, yeah, this is what we're working with. It's going to get better over the course of the videos. Because, well, first and foremost, because it's a funny, quirky thing, right? So for a video. Or sorry, that's one of the reasons, not first and foremost. But first and foremost, because I want to share this experience with you. I don't want to try and be something I'm not. I'm not this super professional guy on YouTube who got everything figured out and know exactly what to do. Because I'm not, and I don't. So I would like to share this experience, especially so that I can go back just by myself and look at it and be like, I remember that. And if I, it's one of the reasons, right? So I thought, why not do the same with music? Why not just try and start? If it sucks, it sucks. But then I will know it sucks. And if it's good, it's good. And that's good. And if it's bad, can I do something better when I listen to it? If I get some critique, can I change it? And so on and so forth. And that is also a reason why I'm doing it. And you can go back to video. Oh, I do not know which video it is. I believe, I truly believe, right, in my own mind, that no, it must be a podcast, right? Is it? Ooh, it might be a podcast and a daily video. I'm talking about why I'm expressing my opinions online the entire day. Yeah, it's a podcast thing. You can probably find this in this playlist then. It's about the one truth and why you should express yourself online and try to help people to that one truth or whatever. But it's also the same with music, that there might be someone out there, might be many, might be few, who really love my singing, right? Or my way of entertaining, or my way of doing music, or my way doing videos and podcasts and stuff like that. So why should I not take the risk or not take the chance of trying that out and see if I can find that audience with the videos? And the worst thing that can happen is that I get horribly shut down and critiqued, and everybody on earth says it's shit, or everybody who interacts with it says it's shit, and I'm like, well, good, that's an experience too. That's a learning experience. Failure is experience too. Or failure is the greatest teacher, as they say. Then I know I won't be doing that anymore. I can drop that, and I can be like, well, I tried it out. But if I don't try it out, I will for always be like, oh, wonder what it could be. Wonder what it could be like, and never get anywhere. But this way, I'm putting things out there, and I'm like, well, watch it, judge it, critique it, feedback, what you think. And I've shown it to some people, and they're like, this is pretty good. I mean, as you say, it's not the best equipment and quality, but the singing overall is pretty good. It's not Ed Sheeran, it's not Rihanna, right? It's good. And that's a starting point. And if I can be good now, then I can perhaps be above good, a bit better than good in a year, and maybe really good in 2 or 3 years, and then extremely good. And then you might, stagnate at one point, which I cannot think about right now because that's going to hinder development. Wow. But yeah, that's the reason why I'm putting out music videos, because music has had such a huge impact on my life, all my life, right? It's helped me out of a hard spot. It's helped me get friends. It's helped me interact with people. It's helped me connect with people. It's even helped me with girlfriends, believe it or not, after listening to the videos or listening to the songs, right? To the covers. But it has. And it's helped me through studying in stressful situations, and it's helped me with so much. So I thought, well, let's just try it out, right? Let's just try to expand and extend the amount that music has impacted my life, and let's put it to the test and see if anyone enjoys it. So yeah, that's the reason why I do that. Music means a lot to me. I think that goes without saying after listening to this. Oh, let's see the time, what we're at right now. We're at just above an hour. An hour 10 minutes maybe. It's hard to see. I do not really have the exact measurements. Yeah, that's it from me, mates. Let's cut it short here because it right now is 3:30 in the morning. I know it's not optimal. It's not. I should have been in bed 3.5 hours ago, to say the least. But yeah, that's what we're rolling with. I'm gonna cut this short now. I might not be entirely satisfied with what I talked about because there's still like lots of things I want to talk about when it comes to music and each individual experience with each individual instrument. But it's late in morning. It's early in the morning, I mean. And that's just the way we go about things. So remember that as well when I talked about stuff. It's early in the morning. Context, it does matter, right? It's all about that context, about the context. Yeah, context. Yeah. So, join in the comment section below. How have music affected you in your life? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? Do you agree or disagree with the things that I've talked about? Even though I've mostly been talking about experiences, which is hard to agree or disagree with. But do you feel like this was nice to listen to or whatever? If you liked it, leave a like. If you disliked it, well, leave a dislike. Use your power as a listener. And good gracious, it's a long one. Thank you for listening all the way to this point, if you're still here. And have a nice one, mates. See you.